in-depth race recaps.
He's shown speed, he's shown dominance at other racetracks.
Pit stops and strategy.
Hell yeah, boys. Let's go. Race strategy, man.
Fantasy racing insights.
Talking about being a team in the summer. We did it. Good job, boys.
Your weekly home for everything Ryan Blaney and Team 12.
Good job, Timmy. Here's to many more, fellas. Thank you.
This is the Team Blaney podcast.
Let's go race for a championship.
Welcome, everyone, to episode 199 of the Team Blaney podcast. My name is Adam Rogers, and alongside me is co-host Steve Mez. This week, we are here to break down Ryan Blaney's top 10 run in the Go Bowling at the Glen on the road course at Watkins Glen International. Steve, welcome back to another episode of the show, and welcome back from New York, where you made it to you and Kate made it to Watkins Glen. From what I understand, the first time, and it seemed like it was kind of a little bit of a spur-of-the-moment trip, and you guys got to see, while people are always, as always, it seems like this last stretch, talking bad about the race, you got to see a pretty good race when it comes to being a Blaney fan.
Wasn't that the best part about it? Is that it's so fun to listen to, listen to Tim and actually Matt and Mule too. Spot a guy who's leading the race. I don't even know how many laps. Somebody said something about he's led over, I think it was like over 100 some laps on road courses in his career. And 1/4 of them came this past weekend in one race.
Yep.
So we'll take it. It was really cool because at road courses, for the most part, you're sitting in one spot. And no matter where you're sitting, you can't see everything. And we were sitting literally behind pit road. So it's kind of a really interesting thing. So we're seeing one section of track where they go by and then they're gone. And it's 70 some seconds later, they're back. Right. And as they get spread out, you see, car, because it's spread out. But there's the leader. It's Ryan. And then you wait and hopefully, when you see him again, nobody else is different, or in front of him, and it was really, really cool. And you don't hear the spotter the whole lap. He's having a pretty good lap, and nobody's on his tail, and it was a lot of fun. You knew that strategies would come into play, but the day itself was, like I said, we were last minute. We kind of decided Wednesday we're going to do it. This is one of our tracks we haven't been to yet, and then we start putting our little plan together, and from where we're living, it's really not that far away. We're 4.5 hours, it said. And I think that maybe it would take a little longer or whatnot, but it really wasn't bad. It was about 4.5 each way. We stopped once, I think, on the way up for something, and on the way back, stopped to gas and get something to eat. So that's another thing. It was like 2 tanks of gas, not even 2 full tanks of gas to make it there and back, in a small 4-door car. So super, super fun, the adventure itself. And if do you want to go over now, like what happened beforehand and during, and or do you want to go to the race report first?
I mean, I just want your overall thoughts on the facility, and like just for anyone that's never been there before, people thinking about going, like, is this a place where you have to have a grandstand seat? Can you roam around? Like, just kind of initial thoughts on that. And then, we have a lot of positive things to talk about, so we can get to that after.
Yeah. So I don't want to, like, road courses, like we said before, they're a little bit rough because you're going to be in an area you really can't see everything. Now, a good grandstand seat there is the higher up, the more expensive, like any of the racetracks. And I'm sure that if we were at the top of the grandstand stands on the front stretch, or there's 1 or 2 other ones out there, you could see more of the track than a lot of other things. But you kind of like take that experience coming in, just knowing that you're not going to see everything. I think that's one complaint that my wife has about Road America is that a lap there is almost 3 minutes long, So half the time it takes so long for the pack to come back. Watkins Glen's a little bit faster, like I said, 70 some seconds. And once they get spread out, you about half of that time you're seeing a car or 2. Parking, was pretty normal. There's good free parking. Getting out of the parking lot was the same thing as always, and we got bumped into again by another knucklehead that was having a medical emergency or something. I luckily got out of the car and looked, and there was no damage, no nothing. But just people are just we hadn't moved for like 20 minutes, and then we moved a little bit, and this guy, couldn't handle it. And part of it is you're parking in grass, and there's big ruts in this field.
Yeah.
And yeah, now we pay attention to that. We're like, I'm going to be real careful. I'm not going to get too close to somebody. What if I hit a rut? What if, the tire rolls a little bit in this rut? No, not this guy behind me, man. He was just in a hurry. But once you get there, all the activities are inside of the track. So they have pretty huge sprawling area of for the fan zone type stuff, As a matter of fact, we made our way over to where all the merch haulers were, made a visit to Des at the Trackhouse hauler, Daniel's hauler. And then we're walking along, and this, of course, is sponsored, as you saw at the open there, right, by Go Bowling. Now, in years past, the Go Bowling sponsorship was on Amarola's car. Well, but it's Michael McDowell this past weekend. Okay, so we see this tent, huge tent, and we see people like in a line going into it. Let's go look. Let's go see what's going on. And sure enough, they had 2 lanes set up. So we got to throw one, right? We get in the line to throw one, and they got a DJ, and they got noise going, and people. Oh yeah, coming up soon, Norm Duke, and then there was a young lady bowler tonight. I can't like me remember her name. She's a younger bowler, and Norm Duke, PBA Hall of Famer. And we're looking, and we're like, he's going to be. And they said he's going to be coming up, and sure enough, there he was. He showed up like a minute or two later. Autograph pictures. So we got up there, and we throw our ball, and then when we come down off, we're like kind of behind him, and he's just kind of like handling, but whoever comes up, he's really, really good, really engaging, always smiling, and turns around and sees me, and my wife's already got a camera in her hand, so he just jumps right next to me. He's like, he's like, okay, cool, and then flips around, I said, he definitely wants a picture, and he flips around, and sure enough, gets a picture with Kate, and we were just so excited, like, just because we know, what kind of, in the bowling world, he's one of the best bowlers.
Yeah, and this is a big deal for you guys, because if people don't know, outside of racing, you two are really avid bowlers and kind of plugged into that world too. So I can imagine, it's when people are seeing some of their other favorite athletes and stuff, then you stumble across a guy that's in one of your passions that's a Hall of Famer. I mean, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I mean, everybody later on in the day, we were behind the 45 pit box, and everybody in the world wants to get a picture or view of Michael Jordan. But and don't get me wrong, he's world famous, right? But to us, meeting Norm Duke for that couple seconds, and so he was so good too. That was the other thing. Like, took a picture. He said something nice. He was just so genuine when that he gave he just gave you such a great smile and everything. So yeah, it just one of those things. You know him real well. So we get done with that, and here's like 2 other good sightings that happen. So we go find some shade. And there's some good places to sit here and there, and we're going toward where our seats are because they're on the inside of the track anyway. And we're sitting in the shade, and I'm the golden retriever, right? That's what my wife always says. And I'm kind of getting a little like, but we got a lot of time. It's like noon, and the race is until 2, and they don't do driver intros till like 1 something. So it's kind of like, she says, well, if you want to go look at this or that, it's okay. Yeah, I want to go at least see where our seats are so I know how to get over to them, because that was another thing. Certain streets were blocked off, and you didn't realize why. Well, I'm walking, she's sitting down in the shade, and I go walk away, and sure enough, I'm walking by a bunch of the RVs that the drivers have. They're in a lot, and there's a fence there and everything, and Uncle Dale is sitting there. Dale Blaney is sitting there with somebody else, and I, hey Dale, and he jumps right up out of his chair. Hey, knew who we were right away. So talked to him for a couple minutes, and we're working on something on that again. So just so you know, hopefully we'll see something soon on that. And you said that on Twitter, I did ask a question of him like a couple days earlier about whether he was going to race Monday night. And him and I were talking about that, and I asked him. He goes, "Oh yeah, I'll be there tomorrow night." And then you said, like, you texted me a little later on that he answered
Yep.
the Twitter question.
Yeah, and they're racing right now as we record, and I mean, just a live highlight. Dale won his
Yeah,
heat race,
yeah.
went
He
fifth
just
to first in his heat
was
race, and he's starting seventh in the feature. And I don't know that it'll be done by the time you're recording, but if it is, we can give people updates. But
we'll definitely let
yeah,
you
he's
know. Yeah.
racing at Sharon tonight, and it's actually an event that Ryan is in the booth right now on Dirt Vision for the Super Dirt Car modified big block modified series that was there too. So if you look at our socials, there's some video and some photos of Ryan out at the track tonight at Sharon Speedway, which he now co-owns. So take a look at those. So that was kind of cool to see.
So when we're done, we head back over to. I head back over to where Kate was sitting, and there's this area that must be like straight across from the start finish line, and there's a lot of people coming and going up this area. A lot of saw a couple drivers on golf carts go by, and sure enough, Mamba Smith is walking by, and she's like looking because he's at a distance, and I go, "That's Mamba." Yeah, and yell out, "Hey, Mamba!" And sure enough, he comes on over, talks for a couple minutes because he was doing the driver intros for the race, and he had the Sunoco jacket. I don't know if people have seen what he wore yesterday, and she's like, "Is he really going to wear that in his heat?" And oh yeah, he'll be on stage with that sucker. I mean, he did not bring it to not wear it, but so cool to get to talk to him for a minute, and he recognized right away because we've met him a couple of years ago. And he's always been good online, talk back with us in a message here or there when he can. So that was a really cool little sighting too. So that was all pre-race. And then, so the weekend, for us, started on Saturday though, because we got to kind of know, I got some notes. There's not as many notes because this was one of the shortest cup races
Time-wise, for sure. Even that the first stage went super fast and just over 2 hours for the whole thing. So.
Yeah, so Saturday with practice, Ryan's going to be in Group 2, and it was kind of weird because usually the way practices seem to work is Group 2 ends up being the faster group, but for some reason, I guess Group 1 ended up being kind of the faster group. So in Group 1, the 7, the 71, the 17, the 54, and the 5 were the fast 5, and that 7 ran a lap of 72.674. So when Ryan gets out there, Group 2, lap 3, his third lap, because it usually takes a lap or two to get it up to speed and everything. Lap 3, P14, and it's about 4/10 back of the 7. And then a little later on, he's the 5th fastest in the group. The 1, the 48.77, the 9, the 12, and that was about the 4th or 5th lap in. And he ran a faster lap. Like the 4th lap was only 0.369 back. Of the 7. At one point, the 23 was a little bit in his way, kind of slowing down. So now I'm keeping track of that because if we're going to look at averages and stuff like that, it's going to kind of hurt that a little bit. Jonathan says he wants to see a long run. He says, once he gets around the 23, tell him to just keep going. And 8 laps in, Jonathan says good lap there. So, they were looking at tire fall off, I think, for sure. The 19th, let's see, 13 laps in was running with the 19, and they were kind of like rabbit kind of thing to kind of see how it was going to go. And he was 4/10 better than the 19, on lap 15, and then there was a little bit of a bobble on lap 16, I guess. So because I hear something from Tim about gathered up or get refocus or something like that. So practice seemed to go halfway decent. Like I said, it's hard to say because the second group did not end up being actually faster than the first group, and they were kind of intertwined. And it's going to be really interesting to see what happened with qualifying in 2 groups too. So 20 minutes for each group here. And SVG is in the first group, and he ran a couple laps, and gets to P1 with a 71.993. His first lap, though, was 8 seconds slower. So he did something kind of weird to kind of warm the engine up and the tires a little bit. But in Group 1 at that point, it's the 88, the 71, the 17, the 54, and the 8. And the distance between the first and fifth there, 71.993 to 72.382. So just about 4/10 of a second between five guys in an over 70-some second lap. It's amazing. A short track, you see that. You see top 10 guys all be within a couple of tenths. But to run like that on a distance, on a track with turns going both directions, amazing. So Group 2, early on, the 48 gets a lap that is 72.199, which ends up being P4 overall when you put the two groups together. 5 minutes in, Ryan's going out. The 28 puts a lap that's P8 overall, 6 minutes in. So looking at, how his teammates were doing, like I said, overall between the two groups. And then Ryan's first lap is P10 overall. And we know everybody really needs to run 2 laps at least to see what you got. Usually you improve from lap 1 to lap 2, air pressures and so forth. And then we see the lap, and just amazing watching on TV. And for some reason, I tried to rewatch it because I've got the HBO Max and they've got the replay for some reason, and maybe it's fixed by now. But Saturday, when I was trying to get the replay of it, the sound was not there. There was no audio. And it just really kind of blew, because the audio was great because it just shocked everybody. And he came through the bus stop and lost time to him as people seen the replay. But as he come off of that and through the carousel, he just gained it all back. And it was just beautiful. He knocked SVG off the pole with a 71.960.
Yeah.
I mean, think about that. It's only 3/100ths, not even tenths.
I will tell you, I've not seen our Discord chat, which we have a Discord chat. I've mentioned it before, that we watch basically most of the races all together there and talk amongst ourselves. But we usually, during practice and qualifying, there's a good group of people in there too. You would have think we won the race because the way people were so pumped, because how big of an accomplishment is when you know how much faster SVG is than the field, and we'll see that in the race eventually as well. There was a little bit of a hint of it even in that first lap. He was in the green for a decent chunk of it, so that gave me a little bit of hope. And then you see him in the green during the actual qualifying lap, and you're never sure at a road course. Like the road course with the way that their data works and stuff, especially during the race. Like sometimes it's all over the place where people's positions are. You can't trust it. And he stays in the green, still in the green, coming out of 6 and 7. We're like, he's going to do this. And then he does. And it's funny, they kept putting a camera on SVG, and he just doesn't really show any emotion or anything. Like if it was another driver, maybe they'd be a little bit upset. But what the main thing I was super happy about was the fact that, and that's the biggest thing you'll hear from any other show this week, is about how they can't pass on road courses, that you burn your tires up when you get behind somebody. All of it's very true. So qualifying has become one of the most important parts of a road course race now in the Cup Series. And to know that he was going to start out front right away, not have to play up some crazy strategy like Brad Keselowski does later in the race to get to the lead or get up front. Because the way these things are now, the guys that are fast are going to flip stages and keep their track position and things like that. So it's super important to qualify well. And I think I even mentioned to you, and it's something the next time we get a chance to talk with Ryan about, that I'm like, he's got to be out of all the poles you can get, getting a pole on a road course, and this is the second one. He sat on a pole at Coda before, has got to be the most proud thing, or a big accomplishment for a driver right now, because that's 90% driver, I would say. Yeah, they have to have a good setup, but you have to be pretty skilled to stay on track and beat a guy heads up that's pretty much the best in the world right now when it comes to a stock car on a road course.
Yeah, that's the part I was going to drive at there, because he does have another pole. I tried to point that out right away. Another pole on a road course, and it was Skoda. But that was that last year?
A couple of years ago, might have been
Uh,
might have even been the
2 years
first
ago,
year
right?
with the next gen. If not, if it was
First
2023.
next year. Right. So there are a couple things there, but the main thing, what you said, is the most important thing: is he beat SVG. He beat a guy who does more with, you know, than anybody else, and as we see, as what's been happening, you know, he beat him, and that to me was the most impressive part of it. That was the most exciting part of it, when he got to the line and it was better than, and the announcers, whoa, didn't see that coming, and no, you didn't. But on the other hand, that's what improving means. And as all the discussions go about getting rid of road courses because of this guy, forget that. Get better. That's all you have to do, is get
And
better. And Ryan answered questions afterward, and one of them was, "Oh, what does he do better?" He says this. Says, people ask me, "What's he doing better than you out there?" And Ryan says, "I don't know, because I don't race near him." And he said, "We'll see more tomorrow, finally, where he's going to be racing near him." So hopefully those are the things that the good guys will do. They'll get to run with him, run closer to him, see what he's actually doing. Maybe they can adjust how they drive. And, hopefully just those laps yesterday, hopefully it helped Ryan in his experience racing against the guy.
yeah, and when he said that, I mean, my first thought was, and I'll totally admit it, and I even said this in our race chat. I said, don't everybody freak out when Ryan loses the lead on the first lap. He specifically said this yesterday. He might be able to settle in and learn going forward. Now we're going to see that doesn't happen to kind of, and it's really impressive. But yeah,
Really
there was
impressive.
that opportunity to do that. So yeah, we were all pretty pumped about the way it was. And if people, our loyal folks that kind of follow us and listen to us, regularly, we've been saying all year long that something has clicked, either just with Ryan or with Team Penske when it comes to, I can't even say Team Penske, because Joey and Austin in the 21 car were pretty much non-existent all day. So something has clicked with Ryan. Whether it's what they talked about on TV and what he told us, that he is really focusing on sim sessions specifically just at road courses. TV said that he's been working with Joey Hand through Ford as well. Something has changed. They've picked up a lot of speed this year on road courses, and the finishes don't necessarily say it. Sonoma was going to be a great finish until our friend in the 17 knocked him off course. Today could have been this past weekend could have been a super awesome finish. Still ended up great as a whole, and we'll go into that. But they've been picking up this momentum. So there's one more after this in Charlotte in the playoffs that hopefully, they're fighting for a championship, and he can continue to show the speed then. So, but yeah, we were pumped starting on the pole, and I'm like, Steve and Kate are at the track. They have a great winning percentage. He's on the pole. They're right there, behind pit road. Got a good seat to see them come to the green flag, and I was looking forward to it. So talk to us about the race itself. And I know you've come back and reviewed some things and picked up some notes, even though you were there on site.
Yeah, we took a couple notes, and because this race ends up being one natural caution, but the stages were 20, 40, 90, and like I said, where we were sitting was just past start finish, and we're keeping track via radio and our phones. It takes a little longer sometimes to get the app update, but running order is pretty much close, and we have one TV screen over the right where there's a running order there. But on the from the green flag, basically within the first lap, he clears the 88, and that's kind of the best part about it, is what you talked about. I just got done watching Door Bumper Clear just to hear Josh Williams was on Door Bumper Clear tonight, just to hear him talking about SVG, and he said that they ran all out trying to get to Ryan that first stage. They just couldn't get to him. They ran with their tongue out trying to get there. They knew that they were going to be hitting it before the end of the stage, because a lot of guys who think they're on a certain strategy, and a lot of teams are either on a 2-stop strategy or a 3-stop strategy, as we find out later on. But they do pit at lap 17, and both of them pit. And what's interesting is that there's Bozy had a tweet out late yesterday that showed the pit stops of the two cars, the 88 and the 12, and specifically showed with the pitting where they were pitting backward, where they pit the other side of the car, and showed Jordan coming around with the jack, and he come around the back of the car, and the amount of time it saved, and their stop was 10.820, and the 88 was a 12.040. So this is the one thing that is one of those hidden things. Like if you get one or two good stops in at the right time, you get in the right position on the track, maybe get yourself into some clean air with fresh tires, because that's the other thing when you're running behind somebody, it kind of dogs you down a little bit. But if you get into clean air and run in front and have fresh tires, you might be able to gap some of these guys at some point.
What did you think about this decision? Because this is there's two stages here where they have to make this decision. They're running out front. They could stay out and win the stage, take the guaranteed point, or if they think we assume this, and I think they've talked about it before themselves, if they feel like they have winning speed, they're gonna flip. They're not gonna do that. So they decide to flip the stage here instead of taking the guaranteed points in this specific situation.
Yeah, this specific situation, the fact that the whole stage went green, I think, is what determines this. And the reason I say that is because it spreads the field out. And what it does, we've seen this with Sonoma earlier this year, where Shane pitted before stage end and then ended up winning the stage because it spread out so much. And then he got back out there with fresh tires and passed guys. Well, this place here wasn't quite spread out quite that much, but by the end of the stage here, Ryan gets to 7th. So yes, you pit before the end of the stage, but also you still got stage points out of it, which is pretty impressive. Certain guys who pit, whatnot, but him and the 88, 7th and 8th, getting stage points when leading most of the stage, that's pretty good. I did not know at that point if they were on a 2-stop strategy or a 3-stop strategy, and we find that out as we go through stage 2 and the length of time stage 2 takes. So interesting thing about this is some of these guys are on the 2-stop strategy already, like the 17, the 60, and the 9 stay out. So Ryan restarts from P4 from the
that caught TV off guard too as well. They said, Ryan Blaney should re-inherit the lead here, and they're like, oh, whoa, okay. No, some guys have decided to stay out here, and immediately I'm going into negative mode. Like, oh man, now he's back in traffic here. This is putting him in a bad spot. Now he's not in the back with the squirrels, but still he doesn't have that cleaner out front. So I wasn't super excited about this position.
Well, one of the things that was interesting was that they did notice the tire wear. I think people during practice maybe didn't notice it enough. Maybe they didn't run long enough runs. But if you were going to run a longer run, so you got to like 15 plus laps into a run, your tire wear was significant. So being on fresher tires than other guys at that point ends up being a big deal here. They restart at lap 24 here. Now the 88 does get by on this restart here. Just the way traffic was, and where you got caught behind a guy and another guy was able to get a good run. So he's back to 5th, but by lap 25 here, they've cycled by everybody. They got by all 3 of those guys. So then you had the 88 in P1, Ryan in P2. At lap 28 is when the 21 spins out, and then the next lap we get this debris caution. So this is like a point where you might see guys try something different to be off sequence. But the winning strategy, you got to kind of watch what the 88 is going to do, because whatever he's going to do is probably going to be a winning type strategy here. They both stay out here. So they restart lap 31 here, and it sorts to, Ryan P2 and the 88 leading. And at lap 36, the 88 pits. So here's the 88. He's pitting near the end of the stage. But if you pit near the end of the stage here, you still have to pit one more time. So he's on a 3 pit stop strategy, but he believes that later on he won't have to pit as late, or he can pit a little later actually. And if he's gap guys a little bit when he does this, it gives him even more of an advantage. And then on top of that, he'll have fresher tires to the end. So he has pretty much put himself in a great position, depending on how everybody else's strategies have to work out, and they have to work out perfect, really. So Ryan gets to P1 and wins the stage. So we watch him lead all those laps in the first stage. He gets himself back to the lead by the end of the second stage and wins the stage. And here's the part that I didn't really realize was going to happen. I thought for sure, okay, they get to the end of the stage and then probably fuel up and put tires on it. No, this is the point where they decide to be on a different strategy than the 88. Now, is this a winning strategy? We went back and forth a little bit on this. Yes and no. Yes, because there is a possibility that if you do it just right, and once again, you have to get out in front of people when you come off pit road. That's the part that you don't know what's gonna go when it happens. But if you get out in front of people and are running clean laps with fresh tires, while the other guys are running dirty air laps behind other guys, and when I say other guys, like the 88, trying to get through traffic, trying to get by guys, having to deal with it, while you're out in the open in the clear, you might be able to get yourself a little bit of a time advantage between the time you've pitted and he pits. Like I said, that has to work perfectly. The second thing, though, and the biggest problem with this, he stays out and he leads till lap 53. So he does a little bit of this here, but then when he pits, he has to have enough fuel to get from lap 53 to the end.
And I will say, I will agree with you what you said. Is it a winning strategy? Yes, and no. It was the winning strategy to be able to beat SVG, because what we saw in this previous stage is that when Shane got ahead of him, even much like when Ryan was ahead of Shane, you weren't going to pass him. Shane wasn't able to pass Ryan either. And he mentioned that he was in that first stage kind of saving his stuff a little bit. But in his post-race interview, he specifically said the 12 was fast, and like I couldn't get around him. So again, that's part of this car and part of the problem that a lot of people have right now. So this strategy was the only one that where they could kind of artificially be able to jump the 88, possibly on the strategy. But what we do run into here, with the pit stop coming up, is it has to be long. So.
It has to be long. So whatever people want to say about, the length of the pit stop, it has to be long because you have to make sure you've got enough fuel to get from where you're at to the end of the race. Plus, if there's a green, white checker too. So you kind of you're playing on that. And then the problem, really, like I said earlier, the problem is where do you come out on the track? If he comes out on the track in front of the group that he ends up behind, he might be in good shape because he might be able to rip some laps off for 5 or 6 laps, or till I think Shane pits 4 or 5 laps later, for 4 or 5 laps at least, where he gets a couple second advantage on Shane, so that when Shane merges back out of the track, he might have to go past those guys too. And the problem is that he ends up, I think it was behind the 24, I believe, when he first come off pit road. And so he ends up racing with guys like that. And it kind of pretty much just strings them out a little bit. So like I said, lap 57 to 30, Ryan is actually literally in P30 as guys are going to continue to cycle. And the 88 pits actually on lap 62. So like I said, it was 8 or 9 laps in between. Then at lap 74 here, it took 8 laps, but the 88 did get to the lead on his fresher stuff. His stuff was 9 or 10 laps fresher than the other guys on a 2-stop strategy, with his 3rd stop. And Ryan's P4 at that point. So everything had cycled, and, but like I said, he was behind at the 24. And then I think lap 81 here is when the 17 passes him. So he gets the 5th. And literally on the last lap, the 19, it was in the last corner, was it?
Last corner.
Where we couldn't see, but
right coming to the line.
And the 19 gets him, so P6. Now, once again, I watched, and if you guys get a chance to, Josh is on Door Bumper Clear this week. Connor Zilich was on, and they talked about, and Tommy Baldwin's actually the guy, he tells you that the last 5 or 6 laps in those long runs, guys were losing 2 seconds, some of them 3 seconds on the lap. And that's pretty good tire fall off. And if you weren't managing, or somebody else was able to manage a little better, or somebody pitted a lap or two later than you did, and just had that little bit more freshness. And that's all it came down to between finishing fourth and sixth. But overall, I'm ecstatic with the points day, and you're gonna, I'm sure, lay this all out, and people really got to start to look at the next 2 weeks and what kind of things can happen or are very possible.
Yeah, it was just it was just one of those things where he hated it to lose that last spot because he still now still has yet to score a top 5 on a road course in the next gen car. It was so close to it. This is as close as he's been this entire time to making that possible. Like you said, the 24 ahead of him, tires were burnt up by the end of that. He was slipping back because he was battling SPG for the win essentially after those pit stops as well. The guys with the fresher tires, like the 17 and 19 and 20, came blowing through the field at the end. So they're on another type of strategy that I think if, Shane isn't in the race, the 20 wins the race on this strategy, just the way that he came up through the field. But Shane's just kind of in a different zip code here. So, but lots of positives to think about on the weekend. Starting on a pole again at a road course, which he did that at COTA a couple of years ago, and then honestly, it didn't run well in the race after that. This one, he started on the pole, held the lead, won a stage. Sure, that ended up changing their strategy the rest of the way, and maybe took them out of that clean air. But either way, scores the most points on the day, gets that extra playoff point. And if we want to talk about the point standings here in a minute, it's incredible what they've been able to do the last few weeks.
What is that? That's the sixth stage win, I think, this year. If I'm not mistaken.
I haven't counted up, but something like that.
And so that's another thing that's a whole other. That's like winning another race come playoff time, right? For playoff points, 6 stage wins is you get 5 for winning a race.
6.
So
Yeah,
that's just fabulous. Another stage win. So 1 or 2 more of them, you get to the playoffs. Just keep piling those playoff points up. That really helps.
So taking a look at the point standings again, I mentioned Ryan was the biggest point getter on the day when it came to stage points and finishing the race, the points for that. Finally, after several weeks here, this was the 4th straight top 10. We'll mention that. He moves out of the 7th position in the standings to 6th. This is what's insane. Again, this is a team with 7 DNFs. They are 6th in the NASCAR Cup Series regular season point standings. And we've been talking about maybe he can get to 5th. Actually, even last week, we're saying maybe he can get to 6th. Maybe if things really go well, he can get to 5th. With the things that happened in this race, P3 is in sight now. So I'll go through the standings here. William Byron, for a second week in a row after regaining it, is still the points leader over Chase Elliott, who's in 2nd. And there's a gap now, pretty big gap, 42 points there. Denny Hamlin is in 3rd, minus 81. Larson is in 5th, or Bell is in 4th, minus 85, and a tie with Larson in 5th, minus 85. Ryan Blaney is in 6th, minus 102. So we're just talking 20-plus points here between Ryan and 3rd with 2 races to go.
And that's
in the
and that's 3 more playoff points. That's the thing that people don't realize is there are playoff points that get awarded to the top 10 finishers in the regular season standings. I think the way it breaks down is starts with 15 for the winner, and then it goes to 10,
9,
8,
that. Yep.
So it could be a matter of getting 5 or 6 points, or 8 or 9 points in the next couple weeks.
Yeah,
and that's once again, that could be the difference between not having to work so hard at the Roval, and having to work so hard.
It's really going to come down to Daytona. I think, next week, even if they have just an average effort and finish top 15 at Richmond around his, which is actually a little bit lower than his career average, but it's really Daytona. He has to survive Daytona all the way through, and that is really the key to moving up from 6th all the way to 3rd if possible. I'll be happy if he even just gets 1 more spot to 5th. And that would be that's all I'm asking for. Third is in sight, but if he can even just get to 5th, that I'm not going to ask for too much. But he did leapfrog Tyler Reddick. So Tyler Reddick, or again, Blaney is 102 out of the lead. Tyler Reddick is 111 points out. Chase Briscoe is in 8th, 138 points out. Alex Bowman is in 9th, 168. And Chris Buescher, with a great finish this past weekend, moved up into the 10th spot in the standings over Bubba Wallace, and he's 194 points out. So Ryan is pretty comfortable there. If there's anything that happens catastrophically, like I don't see him falling out of the top 10 or anything like that. So again, I just want two like consistent top 15 to regular top 10 weeks the next 2 weeks, just to solidify this spot in the regular season standings, pick up as many bonus playoff points as they possibly can going into the playoffs, to go with, like as you mentioned, the 11 already. He got 5 points for winning at Nashville and 6 stage wins, and he's known to win stages at Daytona, and we'll see what they do next week at Richmond as well. So pretty great run altogether. I know Ryan, in his post-race interview, you could tell he's a little bit frustrated on the day. The car kind of went away toward the end. On that last pit stop, they did make a wedge adjustment, which I think Jonathan did that just knowing he was going to come out in some traffic. Whether or not that worked, I don't really know. So they made a pretty valiant effort. And like I said, you guys were out there on the track, and you got to see a great show. And while some folks might not have enjoyed the race, when you're a fan and you're paying attention and you're watching the in-car, it's really hard. Yeah, a couple of weeks ago, I lamented to you about being bored during a race. But this one, especially a road course, it's hard to be bored during a road course when you're watching the in-car camera and you have a guy that's out front and battling for the lead and has a chance. So it's a lot of fun for us, regardless of the entire product on the field. So thoughts on Saturday? I mean, this has been the big topic of discussion. Connor Zilich, the amount of adversity he faced in that race, and just to continuously go back to the lead over and over again. Yeah, he got a little bit of a dust up with his teammate, where nobody wanted to give up an inch, and the 9 ended up, flipping into the wall. But
he took the blame, by the way. He took the blame. He did take the blame. So,
yeah.
But and then the biggest difference between him and the Austin Hill situation, though, is Connor. Yeah, Connor took the blame, but Connor really, really wasn't trying. What Austin Hill did was
he's trying to make a pass. Connor was trying to get back on the track.
Low percentage move.
Yeah.
Right. And it's so funny because he did it versus the king of low percentage moves, Michael McDonald.
Yeah, we had a fun discussion during that race about, was it intentional? Was it not intentional? I think you just brought up like a good point. And it dawns on me as we're talking about it, is that, what I think Austin Hill did was not intentional, but he was actively trying to make a pass. What Connor did, he was just he tried to make a pass, but he wasn't going to do it. He was just trying to get back on track. Both of them end up being the same. Both of them end up crashing, somebody pretty big time. So, that was unfortunate. But then, man, it was just so what happened in Victory Lane, and it's been discussed on every show, TV, network TV across the world, showing what happened. But, man, I've never been more stunned to see something happen before, and felt bad for the folks in the TV booth, and felt the most bad for Connor, and really great to see him on the broadcast the next day. I was confused as anybody as to why Trackhouse had pulled the car from the race, until somebody pointed out, well, Red Bull is very specific on who represents them. So that made sense. So, but for Connor to immediately be back at the track and doing interviews and talking to people, the collarbone situation is not going to be great, but he's young, and I think they can get it fixed up pretty quick.
They've got 4 weeks, I think, till playoffs actually start for them. So one off week, and I think 2 or 3 races between here and there. But the other thing is he did door bumper clear today too. So he's totally he's owning what happened to him. Like I said, he owned what happened to the situation with the incident too. That's one thing that the other guy won't do. That he's been involved in 2 of them in the last 2 weeks. And they pointed out on door bumper clear that the other guy didn't have white gloves on this week either.
Good move.
So you couldn't see his hands this time, right? Good move on his part, right? So, so I'm really impressed with the kid, because it happened to him. It was a really really weird, freaky thing that happened to him, and they yelled at him on the show earlier about putting the window net inside the car because that's where he got tripped up more than anything else, was where the window net was. But to come out and own it, own the problem, own the incident, and and show that he's not embarrassed, or you can laugh at it, and that's kind of a cool thing for somebody so young too, especially like young guys can be a little bit bullheaded sometimes and be very cocky and whatnot, but he comes across pretty good, and really good to see that he's okay. And they're talking about surgery. I hope they don't have to have surgery, but some of these guys, because sometimes once you have a surgery and you put a pin in or something like that, that's permanent. That doesn't really, sometimes takes mobility away even. So they got to really be careful. But glad to see.
So again, Ryan Blaney, P6 on the weekend at Watkins Glen after sitting on the pole and winning a stage. P6 as well in the overall NASCAR Cup Series standings, just a little over 20 points out of the third position in the regular season standing. So keep close eye on that for the next couple of weeks at Richmond, and as the regular season ends at Daytona. One last thing to talk about when it comes to Watkins Glen is a recap of the Team Blaney NASCAR Fantasy Live League. And I'm excited again. For only, I think, the second time this season, I've finished in the top 10, and ended up being a great week for me. So I'll go through my starting lineup here. Ryan Blaney got me 45 points, the most points on the day. We talked about that earlier. Chase Briscoe got me 34. Alex Bowman got me 30. William Byron got me 42. SVG, the winner, got me 43 points. And I had Kyle Busch in the garage at the end of the race, 15 points. So I believe I actually had Bowman in the garage initially, but I swapped out Busch a little bit early on. I think even possibly before he got the commentator's curse, which I know you're at the track, but Lee Diffie was talking about how great of a race the 8 was having, and then immediately crashes. So luckily I had him in the garage. Featured matchups, I had Hocevar over Zane Smith, and that was wrong by one position, and it was actually a position that Hocevar gave up voluntarily. They showed some in-car footage of this after the race, and Hocevar actually went over to Zane Smith's car after the race and said, hey, you can expect that for the next couple of weeks. I know it doesn't make up for, basically what happened at Iowa, but he did wave by, much like he did for Ryan. So this is a thing that Hocevar is doing, I guess, to make up for people on track. He let Ryan go by at the end of the race last week. In this race, he let Zane Smith go by on the final run there. So Hocevar cost me the win, I'm going to say. I think if I had those 10 more points, maybe I could have won the weekend. So I had Van Gisbergen over Larson. That was right. Byron over Chastain. That was right. And I had Buescher over McDowell. That was right. Good enough for 224 points on the weekend. And yes, if I had those 10 points, thanks, Carson, I could have tied for the win. 5th overall in the league. So how did things go for you in your lineup?
So I had to change the lineup. I had it set like ahead of time, and then I had to change it because I had Connor Zilich ready to go. I'm like, I'm going to use him. What the heck? He's going to have a good, decent race, and they'll probably race the race the other way and get stage points. But no. So I hurried up and made sure I got him out of there. But so I ended up with Hocevar in the garage, and that ended up being okay because I had Briscoe for 34 points. I had Bowman for 30, Chastain for 27. Chase Elliott was the one that kind of hurt me with only 18 points. Once again, these things are really, really hard because you got to get guys who are going to, if they flip the stage, still get stage points, or get guys who are going to try to hurry up and get stage points. Now, I had Shane. Everybody had Shane. If you didn't have Shane in your lineup this year or on a road course, what were you doing with Shane? So I had all 4 correct. I had Zane over Hocevar. I had Shane over Larson. I had Byron over Chastain, and I had Buescher over McDowell. And the whole Larson thing was kind of funny because they broke his car. I don't know what it was. They said, was it a brake issue? Somebody was saying on the radios it was a brake issue.
Yeah, I think it was like lines or something crazy.
So they went and fixed it, and then comes out and does the fastest lap at a race. Yeah. Bully for him.
That's their MO.
Right before he came back out, I says to my wife, look, they're going to fix his car and get him back out here. And what he's going to do is ruin Ryan's day somehow. Like he did at Darlington.
Yep. Yeah, and I brought that up to folks, the fact that this is the race that changed the DVP policy last year when Ryan
Yeah.
crashed out on the first lap and didn't have a chance to fix their car. So luckily that happened. So Larson had the opportunity to come back out at Darlington and crash while Ryan was running away with the victory. So yeah. That happens. So you end up 32nd overall on the weekend, 192 points earned.
Mhm.
Sorry for your luck.
Yeah.
10th in the standings this week from Watkins Glen in the Team Blaney NASCAR Fantasy Live League is Alyssa C, 213 points, and 9th. It's Blaring Idiots, 214. Nellis Straightaway in 8th, 219 points. Tie for 6th between Factory of Sadness 6 and Charlie. I always say Charlie Abu. They're in the Discord. I should really ask whether it's Charlie AB00 or that. Tied anyway with Factory of Sadness 6 in the 6th position, 223 points. My team, Team Blaney host Adam in 5th, 224 points. This was super close from 3rd all the way to 6th. Dr. Race Chaser in 4th, 225. Go Larson in 3rd, 226. DT Daytona 12 in 2nd, 227 points on the weekend. And Blaney or Bust wins the weekend at Watkins Glen in the Team Blaney NASCAR Fantasy Live League, 234 points. Let's go to the overall standings. 65th overall for me still, 4,058 points. Top 10, the defending champion in the league, Racer SF, has moved into 10th, 4,520 points. Dr. Race Chaser is in 9th, 4,523. Blaney Kicks Beep, 4,530. 7th is Go 12 Go, 4,533. Your team, Mez 12, is in 6th, 4,545 points. Former champion Clyde's Chicken Pit Racing is in 5th, 4,550. So you're not that far out of 5th still. Pit Stop Pro is in 4th, 4,611 points. Our friend Jordan Daniels, not going to skip him this week, in 3rd, 4,619 points. Vans 12 in 2nd, 4,653. And leading the way is Alyssa C, overall, 4,696 points. And that brings us now to this weekend's event at Richmond Raceway. It's going to be a Saturday night event as we go through things. So back to night racing at that short track. Things kick off on Friday when it comes to NASCAR. Just two the Wheel and Modified Tours there on Thursday. The NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series is there on Friday. So practice for the Cup Series, 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time on Friday. True TV, HBO Max, you can watch it streaming. MRN, Sirius XM, NASCAR Radio. You can listen to the event, the practice on the radio. 5:40 p.m. Eastern Time, right after practice is qualifying on those same places. 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, you have the Euro 250 from Richmond Raceway for the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series on FS1 and on the radio with the NASCAR Racing Network and Sirius XM NASCAR Radio. Then Saturday, August 16th, we have the Cookout 400 from Richmond Raceway, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, streaming on the NBC Sports app, on TV on cable with the USA Network, in-car cameras on HBO Max, on the radio with MRN, Sirius XM NASCAR Radio. Richmond Raceway and Ryan Blaney. For a long time, oil and water. More recently, a little bit better, but there was a little bit of a shaky stretch there in 2023 in the first race last year of 2024. Overall, 17 starts, 131 laps led. Average start, 13.2, including a pole back in 2022. Average finish, 19.5, one of his worst statistically overall in his whole career. 1 DNF, only 3 top 10s. We still talk about that first top 10 that he got back in 2021 in the old car, battling Austin Dillon right down the stretch and passes him, I think, on the last lap or second to last lap. And that was like a win for us because prior to that, he had been just dismal at Richmond Raceway. That set off a streak of 3 straight top 10s starting off in 2021, 10th, 7th, and 10th. But then he had a tough stretch in 2023, 26th, 14th, 19th in the first race of 2024, and then the fall race of last year, which again, they had 2 races all the way up until this year. Fall race last year at Richmond, 11th, started 11th, finished 11th. This was the race where they had the option tire, so it was a little bit crazy with guys coming through the field. I remember Suarez and some other folks took it early, drove all the way through the field. This is the race where Austin Dillon was driving away with it, had the clear best car, and a weird caution comes out at the end of the race, and then just havoc ensues. He crashes 2 people on the final lap, and Joey Logano and Denny Hamlin gets the win. I did what I had to do to get in the playoffs, and NASCAR takes a stand later that week and says, well, you can keep the win. You're not in the playoffs. So it'll be a little bit different this weekend with no option tire. What was the option tire, I think, is the actual tire they'll run on, but there won't be 2 different sets, just one set for everybody, or one compound for everybody. And we'll see where things go. Again, Ryan qualified 11th, finished 11th there, but we've said this the last several weeks. Even though statistically 19th average finish, has there been a track this year, except for maybe one road course in practice, where they haven't shown up with speed?
Yeah, I mean, this really is a weekend that should be fine. I think should be exciting, really, because I'm thinking about that poll now from a couple of years ago when you said that. It's like, well, they've shown a lot of speed this year, and things have seemed to, like you said, they've started to click there, kind of like the way Martinsville all of a sudden started to click for them a couple of years ago. So I think that they're only going there once this year makes a big difference. Everything falls back to last year's notes. You're going to get these, if they get long green flag runs, you're going to get these interesting strategies where teams might pin an extra time just based on tire wear and gain that time back as long as it stays in a long green flag run. And this is the problem with, like, a couple of the statistics that you talked about there too on finishes. I think that happened once or twice where they were on a certain tire strategy, a caution came, and it screwed up the tire strategy. And at the end, you had a chance to make a little bit of it up, but not enough, or you didn't have enough time to make it up. So that's the only thing that can be a little bit tricky, is if we get a lot of natural cautions at different points, where are people on their tire strategy who has an extra set when they need it? Or, did you make a green flag stop a lap down and now this comes out? Now you're sure you take a wave around, but now you're at the back and then you got to pass the cars, and it's just, so hopefully we don't see a lot of that. I'd like I said on Sunday, and I didn't say it, but I texted you it, is I would love to see a race just go green the whole race and see them play their strategy out the way they really would like to play it, especially with the speed they have. Because with the speed that they have, and we've seen these statistical things that show like where he would finish, and there's one, I don't know which race it was in Iowa, one of the races that showed him like basically being a lap ahead of almost everybody on speed, and that would ultimately be the best, is just to let them run a whole race where there's just the 2 stage cautions and everybody pits when they pit, and they come back out on the track and everything cycles through a pit cycle. And because I think he can win a race like that where there's only 4 or 5 guys left on the lead lap when it's all said and done, and that'd be fabulous. I know a lot of people wouldn't like seeing that, but I would love it.
Yeah, and you brought up the tire strategy because even in years past, it's been a big deal there. Richmond has a super abrasive surface. And again, this was that option tire that they brought it there in the first place last year because it was that one where Goodyear came out for the short tracks and they said, we're going to bring out the softest compound we've ever made for this car. And that's what they did. So I'm interested to see how it plays out at a super abrasive surface like Richmond when it's the only option. And we'll have to see whether or not people that save tires, matters at all, or if it really is just comes down to strategy. Because that's the 2 things. I don't know how much we really have had recently of the saving your equipment stuff, especially even when it comes to short tracks. Now, in other short track series, especially the Cars Tour, that's huge. In the Cup Series, that hasn't really been that big of a deal. But it's turned into what you said. Are they going to come in and take an extra set, drive back through the field and unlap themselves, and then see how much further they can get after that? You're going to see that for some guys. We're coming down to the last 2 races of the year. There's guys like Brad Keselowski that are sitting on the outside looking in on the playoffs. And Brad, I mean, he played a strategy this past weekend at Watkins Glen that got him the lead late, where it was late enough to where if there was a caution, there's a good chance a lot of people were going to have to come down pit road or would want to get fresh tires to the end of that race. So that's a team that's going to be throwing some Hail Marys here. And then again, the RCR cars, If Kyle Busch can get a hold of the setup that they put in the 3-car last year, look for him to be super fast. Now, again, they've been fast. Speaking of them in general, they've been fast like every week too. There's just something. There's a pit road penalty. He spins out and crashes in practice. Like in this case, he's having a great race this past week at Watkins Glen and crashes. Like he's that guy that once again for the second year in a row they're talking about, is Kyle Busch going to win or not? But if he does win, he's a threat in the playoffs as well. So you want to tune in again this weekend for the races at Richmond Raceway. Again, if you're a little bored on a Thursday night, we do have the NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time on Flow Racing. It's Friday. You have the practice and qualifying starting at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time for the Cup Series on True TV. The Craftsman Truck Series race is at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time on FS1. And then Saturday, you have the Cookout 400 for the Cup Series, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, streaming on NBC Sports, the USA Network on cable, HBO Max for the in-car cameras, SiriusXM NASCAR Radio, MRN on the radio. And then Sunday, do whatever you want. It's an off day.
Barring the R word, right?
No, that's true. It's been good for a little while here. So Daytona, I'm sure it'll rain for sure. That pretty much wraps up everything we wanted to talk about here on the Team Blaney podcast. But Steve, I do have an live update on the race from Sharon Speedway when it comes to the sprint cars. Dale Blaney started 7th, was battling for 2nd. He was in the 3rd position battling for 2nd. And from what I understand from Brandon Burns, one of my friends out there at the track, drive shaft went through the rear tire, shredded the tire, and he was out of the race. So battling for the 2nd position, driving from 7th to 2nd, and had a mechanical failure there. So the 10 car did not go to victory lane tonight at Sharon Speedway. Again, Ryan Blaney was there on hand. He did a Q&A before the race with the Kids Club, which is kind of cool, and it's new this year. He's in the booth for Dirt Vision for the Super Dirt Car Series, which is a big block modified series. So he was calling the action there. Dave had the sprint car there with Dale behind the wheel. And I'm going to post this photo. The Super Dirt Car posted a picture. And we get this a lot. Anytime we post photos of any Dave Blaney sprint car, people are always asking about what innovative thing is he trying to do. There's a photo that I'll share that's on social media where the right rear tire and the wing are all the way pushed to the right-hand side. It's kind of crazy looking. Steve, you'll have to take a look at it after we get off the show here. But I'll share it on our social media channels. But Dave is always trying to be innovative with things, and this time he's got Dale behind the wheel while he's doing it. So I'm sure that's kind of fun. But you'll have to see this thing. But we get those comments all the time. Hey, can you get a closer picture? I want to see how the shocks are set up, or how, what the offset is and things like that. So it's pretty interesting. So it's Dave being Dave. He likes to try to innovate when it comes to sprint car racing, and obviously had a lot of success along the way doing it. So unfortunately, Dale did not go to victory lane tonight at Sharon Speedway, but I know a lot of folks had a lot of fun with Ryan Blaney on the premises, especially getting out there with the kids and talking to the kids. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
Well, as I said, I think that wraps up this episode of the Team Blaney podcast. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in, whether it was live on Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, or if you're listening to us on the audio version later on in the week. We really appreciate it. During the week and on race day, you can find us on Facebook, X, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Just search for Team Blaney. We'd also like to encourage you to support the Ryan Blaney Family Foundation. Ryan's official charitable organization benefits brain health causes like UPMC Sports Medicine and the Alzheimer's Association. To learn more, visit RyanBlaneyFamilyFoundation.org or follow them on Facebook, X, and Instagram. So for my co-host, Steve Mez, I'm Adam Rogers. We'll catch you next time right here on the Team Blaney podcast.
Good night, Corning. Check out the TikTok.